Hello there and welcome to the Bicycle Diaries. It's been another fantastic week on the bike. If you're a regular viewer of this vlog, you'll know that last Sunday I rode the Isle of Wight Randonnee. So that was 110 really hilly kilometres around the Isle of Wight. Now I did finish it, I got to the end, I felt pretty good, but I was starting to feel a little bit tired. And needless to say, when I woke up on the Monday morning, my legs felt very heavy indeed. Now, I know it's not a good idea to take a complete day off after a fairly long ride, so I needed to get some recovery in my legs. So my other half and I went out for a very short ride up Ednee's Lane. Now, my other half isn't a cyclist, and although Ednee's Lane is quite a long climb at about 3 kilometres with an average gradient of 3 or 4%, I did manage to just kind of ride behind her and just take it nice and easy, and that was just enough to get the blood flowing again, get all those sort of good nutrients and everything back into my muscles and just give my legs a little bit of a recovery. For the next few days I did indeed actually have a bit of a rest, plus the weather wasn't great either, so I couldn't actually go out on the road, and I'm still having a few issues with my turbo trainer, so Zwift wasn't really an option. And then once I'd recovered fully, I went out on Friday and did the Ednee's Lane route again, but this time I did it as fast as I possibly could. So when I'm riding that route on my own, I extend it to about 25 kilometres, and my aim is to do the whole route within an hour. So I took on the climb and just pushed it up there as best I could, came down the other side into the village of Hambledon and then pushed it on home. So I got home with a finishing time of 58 minutes for the 25 kilometre route, so that was well inside the hour, and I was really pleased with that. And then on Saturday I did a one-way ride to a place called Alton. Now the ride itself was about 40 kilometres, but in the first 20 kilometres there are 3 really tough climbs, so I negotiated those, and then once I got to the top of climb number 3, it was a long 20 kilometre downhill into Alton. Now the thing that made Saturday's ride a little bit challenging was the wind. It was basically a very strong, very cold northeasterly, which was exactly the direction I was going, so I had that cold headwind all the way, which made cycling a little tough. I have to say that did take the enjoyment off it a little bit, as it was very, very hard riding in that headwind. But by the time I got to Alton, I'd kind of achieved something, and I was very, very pleased with myself. So overall, that was a fantastic ride. And finally, I met up with my cycling chum Steve, who organises a monthly ride from his bike fixer's shop. Unfortunately, only 2 of us turned up, but it was still a very enjoyable ride. We did 40 kilometres out in the Hampshire countryside, and we cycled along roads that I never even knew existed, and I've lived in this area pretty much all of my life, and some of the roads I've never been down in my life, and particularly one, there's a long kind of draggy little climb up to an observatory, and that's literally like 1.5 miles from my house, and I never even knew this road or this climb existed. So that was great fun. So thank you, Steve, for taking us out on that ride. I hope to join you next month. And thanks also to a chap called Dave who turned up. I've never met Dave before, but it was great riding with you. As I say, last week I rode the Isle of Wight Randonnee, and this week I've had an opportunity to reflect on some of the things that I did well, plus perhaps some of the things that I could have improved upon. Now, I have to say that I really did impress myself by doing the long route. in the weeks leading up to the ride, my training just was not there. I just had not put the distance in to be able to ride the 110 kilometers. Plus, I hadn't lost any weight at all, which I knew was going to make the climbs even harder than they should have been. But lo and behold, I did finish the ride, and what's more, I felt far better at the end of it this year than I did last year. Last year I felt absolutely terrible. I could not turn the pedals over, and I remember sitting on the ferry coming back just thinking, oh my god, I am absolutely shattered. But this year I felt absolutely fine, and I think that must have been down to the fact that I was kind of overestimating perhaps how hard the ride was going to be based on my performance last year. So I was kind of pacing myself. Plus it's always good to kind of believe a bit more that you can do things. So I was trying to convince myself on the way around that I was doing it. And basically it just dawned on me that sometimes we are much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So that's a fantastic thing to know. I also broke one of my mental barriers again, so I now know without doubt that I can ride 110 fairly difficult kilometers. Now, I was saying that this time last year, and that was indeed true, but it's like all things. If you've got nothing to base that upon, then you can't really say that. It's not an indefinite thing that you can say. Just because you've ridden 110 kilometers once, that doesn't mean that you can continue to do that. So you kind of need to reassure yourself that is possible, and that's exactly what happened last week with the ride. I was also focusing a little bit more on my nutrition this year. I actually went out and I bought some cycle specific energy products. So I bought a couple of Cliff bars, some energy blocks, and I was using the Zero tabs, the electrolyte hydration things for my bead on. Whereas last year I was using the electrolyte tabs, but I just had some cereal bars which I don't think were quite cutting it, and consequently that's why I think I ran out of energy last year. I think also the weather this year was a factor. The weather wasn't great, it was fairly cold. But that did help with my hydration. I wasn't dehydrated quite as much as I was as perhaps last year. Last year the weather was absolutely fantastic, 30 degrees, clear blue skies and very sunny. I went through about 6 bead-ons last year. This year I only drank 2. But I probably wasn't sweating as much this year as I was last year, and consequently I wasn't losing quite as many fluids, so I think that really helped as well. And finally, I think having really good position on the bike helped as well. I was riding my Trek and I'd made a few minor adjustments to the position, so it was absolutely spot on perfect. So my legs were working as efficient as possible, and by the time I got to the climbs, I was just taking things nice and easy, making sure every single pedal revolution was as good as I could do it, pulling up on the pedals, and lo and behold, I got to the top of all the climbs feeling much better than I thought I would. So the message here is, if you are training for a specific cycling event, just focus on your training, believe in yourself that you can do it, and just get out there and ride the bike and do the event. You never know, you might just surprise yourself. So if you found this film useful, please like and share, and if you'd like to get the most out of your cycling, please consider subscribing for my regular weekly uploads. Thanks for watching.